Hey guys, so Thomas Jefferson. Jefferson was elected in 1801, and it's important to know that Thomas Jefferson was the first president to actually live in the White House in D.C. He was the first one to be inaugurated there, and then he actually started living in the White House. The White House. He was the first president to live in the White House, which is real interesting to know. He actually kind of wanted it bigger. He thought it was real nice and big, and then eventually he wanted it bigger. That was Thomas Jefferson for you. He was a Democratic Republican. That meant that he really loved the Constitution the way it was written. He did think the Constitution was, it kind of promoted strong government, and he didn't want a strong government. He wanted a weak government. So whatever the Constitution said he could do, he did. Anything it said he couldn't do, he didn't even try to want to attempt it. It was like his baby. So let's say this was Thomas Jefferson's baby. He held it real close to him. He wanted to protect it. He didn't want anything bad to happen to it. And eventually, he just loved his little baby. Eventually, though, the Constitution, he would kind of get some trouble with the Democrat Republicans, the Federalists, and the Northerners, eventually, for what they called unconstitutional. But we'll get to that in a little bit. But just know that Thomas Jefferson was a Democratic Republican, the first president to live inside the White House, and he really held on to the Constitution. He was anti-strong government. He was very, limited rights for the government, federal government. So that's Thomas Jefferson. Let's talk about the Louisiana Purchase. Yeah.
You get down the fiddle and you get down the bow. Kick off your shoes and you throw them on the floor. Dance in the kitchen till the morning light. Louisiana Saturday night.
So let's go back to France at this time. What was going on in France? Well, there was revolutions. They were throwing their croissants and their baguettes, and a lot of things were going down there. Napoleon actually took over. Napoleon Bonaparte, and he was that leader that actually just never left anywhere. He tried to just take over everything. Eventually, he would decline and go to exile, but things were going down. He actually tried to make a deal with Spain to take over the French territory in America, which was the Louisiana territory. But, deals went sour. He was being run out of France, yada, yada, yada. So him and Thomas Jefferson make a deal up. And Napoleon's like, hey, Jefferson, TJ, for short, I'm going to sell you this land, for cheap. I'll give you this for $15 million. Take it or leave it. Jefferson's like, hey, it's free land. We could keep expanding west. Let's do it. So Jefferson buys the land from Napoleon. So now we have this new Louisiana territory. We have all this new land. And what did the Americans have to think about it? You would think we would be like, oh, yeah, we got new land. But we weren't. The Federalists, they thought, this is going to lead war to Spain. Because Spain had land, even farther west. So they thought, this is going to lead the war with Spain. The Northerners wanted to secede from the Union because they thought slavery was going to spread west. They didn't like that. And then the Democratic Republicans thought, this is going to add so much to the national debt. Jefferson, you're supposed to be for us. You're supposed to be with us. You're supposed to be not overstepping your boundaries on the Constitution. And you are. And everyone else thought it was just unconstitutional. But not a problem. This deal was done. We had this new land. The northern states actually did want to secede from the Union. And this is actually a good story. The northern states they all met together. They were like, oh, we're going to succeed. But there was one problem. New York. New York didn't really have a governor this time. The governorship was up for grabs. So Aaron Burr, Thomas Jefferson's vice president, was going to if he won the governorship, he was going to, be on board and secede from the Union. But him and Hamilton didn't have a great relationship. Alexander Hamilton, remember, told, everybody in New York not to vote for him. No one did. So Aaron Burr did not get elected. Thus, they couldn't secede from the Union because the new governor didn't want to secede from the Union. So Alexander Hamilton actually kind of, saved the North from seceding from the Union. That was a good thing for him, until he got shot by Aaron Burr. But That's actually a story that what happened. Okay, next up, we're talking about moving west.
On the road again. Just can't wait to get on the road again. The life I love is making music with my friends. And I can't wait to get on.
So now we have all this land out west. So what do we have to do? We have to explore it. And so Jefferson hires Lewis and Clark to go explore. Them and 33, other members, they go and they travel through the west, through the Louisiana Territory, to the Pacific. It takes them 28 months to do this. And it was actually, how many miles was it? 2,100 miles in 28 months. So that's pretty good. Them just being on their own, not knowing where they're going. They kept maps and journals and all that good stuff, to lead them back home. But they started from St. Louis and went all the way to the Pacific. So that's good. And you're going to be doing like an activity with this in class. So we're not going to really get much into detail with this. But just know that Lewis and Clark, they traveled from like St. Louis to the Pacific in 28 months. On the way, they picked up like Sacagawea and some other people. They met Indian tribes. They killed bears. All that good stuff. They traveled west. The last major thing about Thomas Jefferson was he actually ended the slave trade. This was pretty much the last big act of his presidency. He ended the slave trade. Now, this didn't stop slavery from, expanding in the United States. It just stopped slavery, slaves from coming from, like, Africa into the United States. It stopped that trade. But still in the United States, more slaves were being born every day. So it didn't stop slavery in the United States, just stopped the trade from, Africa to the United States. So that's Thomas Jefferson. Louisiana Purchase. He purchased all this land, sent Lewis and Clark out there to go explore. They find a lot of Indian tribes, that good stuff. They find the Pacific, come back, good stuff. Thomas Jefferson was the first president to live in the White House, as we said. He was elected in 1801, Democrat or Republican, held the Constitution tight, all that stuff. And the last thing I really want to touch upon, we're not really going into detail, but Marbury versus Madison, that case trial. Just know that Marbury versus Madison actually it put forth the process of judicial review, where Supreme Court can declare something constitutional or unconstitutional. So Jefferson was a part of that.